We're an island nation, drawn to the sea that surrounds us. A playground for some. For others, it's where they make their living. But the sea's unpredictable.
Things with the seas, you've got to respect it. The sea will do what the sea wants to do.
There to save our lives is a volunteer army of over 5,000 ordinary people, ready to leave their jobs, their families, and race to our rescue.
When the pager goes off, your heart races, you just want to do the right thing.
Straight out, straight out. Oh my God.
Seconds can make the difference between life and death.
You come to me first. Go, man. Go, go, go.
There's no better sight than that ship coming through the water. There's no better sight.
Equipped with their own cameras.
Am I recording?
Yeah, it's flashing.
The crews give us a unique insight into every call-out, as only they see it.
It's all right, I got you, I got you.
I got you, darling.
For those who risk their lives, it has become a way of life.
Bringing people back to their loved ones is what it's all about. You know, that's what we do the job.
They saved my life. They absolutely saved my life.
Hold on!
Lying on the Essex coast is the small seaside community of Walton-on-the-Naze.
Well, this part of the world's really known for day trippers in the past, you know, from the East End of London, really.
Originally a farming town, centuries of coastal erosion eventually turned Walton into a seaside resort.
This would have been a classic Victorian destination. And then the piers were built for the paddle steamers, for, again, tourists. And that was the start, really, of Walton becoming more of a town.
Sharing a lifeboat with neighbouring Frinton-on-Sea, the Tamar-class all-weather boat is moored in its own custom-built pen at the end of Walton's 800-metre-long pier.
We are at the entrance to the Thames. It's very busy with a lot of traffic into Harwich and Felixstowe. There's a lot of yachts coming up and down the east coast on passages and trips, and plenty of marinas and boats around.
A mild but windy August day. Walton and Frinton receive a mayday, the most urgent distress call at sea.
DLA phoned me and said it's a vessel sinking, it's HMS Pickle.
HMS Pickle? Is this thing like a warship, or you know, what is this? You know, what are we actually going to?
A sinking vessel is always an urgent shout. But to reach the lifeboat at Walton, the 7-man crew must first squeeze into a small boarding craft.
Yep. Incoming, yep.
It's very intimate, being on the boarding boat, but it gets us to the Tamar and allows us to get out.
The crew launch along with flank station Harwich. They head out to HMS Pickle's last known location, 20 miles southeast of the town. But even at a top speed of 25 knots, it'll take them 50 minutes to get there.
Your initial thought when you know there's a boat taking water is, how bad is it? Has it got a hole in it? Will we be able to save it?
Yeah, that's what I'm up. Awful lot of water in the engine room. They can't get it down anymore.
The casualty vessel's on-board bilge pumps are struggling to keep the water level down. The crew prepare their own portable pump, ready to assist on arrival.
It's been started, Trev.
What obviously goes through your mind is, can they hold it with their own bilge pumps, or is it going down fairly fast? We've seen several boats sink.
With their pump ready, the crew finally catch sight of the ship they've come to save.
We're like, oh, it's not a grey naval warship. She's an old schooner-type tall ship. And it was like, wow, this is very different.
A tug, the Isa, has also responded to the mayday and is on scene. But HMS Pickle can't risk slowing down in these heavy seas. The lifeboat crew must work out how to safely help the nearly 100-foot-long wooden sailing vessel in rolling seas while it's still moving.
had quite a roll on her at the time and wasn't going to be the easiest boat to come alongside. We could have done damage to them and they could have done damage to us.
Try a certain white boat.
Yeah, we could get people on afterwards with a white boat.
Get the pump across on the white boat. Yeah. They get a line ready, or we put a line on it.
Lift it up, yeah.
HMS Pickle has now been taking on water for over 2 hours. The decision is made to launch the Tamar's Y-boat and send 2 crew members across to her with a heavy salvage pump on board.
Well, I decided I'd go on the Y-boat because it was partially my idea. And I chose Dale to come with me.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Poof it back.
Not really sure how it was decided. It was more of a message of I was voluntold that I'm going across.
The tiny Y-boat normally serves as a tender, operating inshore in places the larger Tamar can't reach. It is not usually deployed in rough, open seas like these.
Yeah, biggest concern in launching the Y-boat is we've got a large diesel pump in the middle of the boat that at some point is going to be lifted above our heads, so there was danger there. And the issues with capsizing alongside HMS Pickle or alongside our own lifeboat.
One more.
It's not every day that you jump into it with a big salvage pump on board, so that was a little bit delicate. It was about timing and making sure that we were positioned correctly.
That's it, we're in.
Let's go.
Okay, just steady.
Dale and Rick get away from the Tamar safely. But the fully laden Y-boat with only a 15 horsepower outboard engine struggles to make any headway.
Y-class was at full throttle. With the weight and the sea conditions, it wasn't a fast manoeuvre. It was borderline on the capabilities, I think, of the Y-class.
The Y-boat slowly draws level with the schooner, which is riding low because of how much water she's taken on. The crew work fast to transfer the pump across.
The salvage pump's heavy. Really, it's a 2-man lift, so to get that out is quite a thing. If they don't pull it out quick, then that's going to fall back on the guys in the Y-boat, especially the way the Y-boat is jumping about.
It's heavy.
Okay.
The crew of HMS Pickle successfully pull the pump on board. Next, it's Rick's turn to try and board the stricken schooner.
Take us up the bow.
The way that she was rolling in the conditions, it was very uncomfortable, and it was a case of, I don't want to be here very long.
Yeah, go on. Mind your feet, Rick. Rick, I'm getting flipped out of this.
When the pump was taken out and Rick jumped on board, the boat was a lot more lively at that point, and trying to maintain position so we didn't come too close to Pickle was quite a bit of work on the throttle.
This is gnarly.
Keeps you on edge and make sure you're focused on doing the task at hand.
Tighten up, tighten up.
With the wake of the larger vessel continually threatening to swamp the Y-boat, Dale opts to cut its engine and join Rick on board.
Can this come up? Yeah, just hold that.
When we looked through the engine hatch that was on deck, you could see the water sloshing up to the bed of the engine. We didn't want it to come any higher because at the threat of the engine stopping and causing more problems.
The crew work fast to set up the pump and help tackle the flood.
We got the pump started and that started thumping water over the side, and then luckily the water level started to go down.
Once pumping at full throttle, the water levels in the engine room start to fall, but the crew still need to find out where the water is coming from.
No, I wasn't confident where the leak could be, because on a vessel the size of that, it could have been anywhere.
One this field. Fill that.
I went down in the engine room and then I could hear a sound of water thrashing around. When I found one of the hoses off the engine had been worn and there was a hole in the side of it.
The ruptured hose carries seawater to cool the engine, which also runs the ship's bilge pumps. So running the engine to pump the water out was also bringing the water in.
If it had been a bigger leak, they would have all ended up in a life raft and in a busy shipping area.
Now the pipe is patched up to stop the flooding, the rest of the water is steadily pumped out of the engine room, and the crew opt to stay on board for the trip back rather than risk another tricky transfer.
The ride back was interesting. We learned a bit of history of the boat and a great sunset to an end of a successful job.
The original HMS Pickle was part of Nelson's fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar. This one, built in 1996, is now owned and skippered by Mal Nicholson.
Sailing HMS Pickle really does feel like you're going back 200 years to the time of Nelson. I don't think there's any other ship that can give the raw feeling that she does.
HMS Pickle set sail from Dover at first light en route to Harwich.
We left very early in the morning and we were making great progress. The seas were extremely rough, but that's nothing unusual for HMS Pickle. She can deal with that. It wasn't until I opened the engine room door and, yeah, I knew it was serious. And I contacted the Coast Guard and told him that it was balancing on a knife edge. You never ever expect that you're going to be in that situation. But when you're there and you see the lads coming over the horizon going like hell, you know full well that whatever can be done will be done. I can't imagine anybody wanted to get on that rib and come out in those conditions to do what they did. You know, you're very much aware that in that situation, others are putting themselves at risk to try and help you.
Mechanical failure at sea is only one of the many ways people get caught out.
Hey, go, man! Go, go, go!
It's very easy to get caught out at sea. Even very experienced people are going to get caught out at sea.
Our problem can go from bad to worse in minutes, seconds even in some scenarios.
Keep hold of that, mate. 2 seconds, we'll be with you.
The weather can change in an instant. You can go out on a shout, it's quite calm, quite flat. You can go around the headland, it's a completely different story.
10, 15 mile away, you're in a gale.
It's too dangerous to tow you. Can you get your sail up?
Lose your mast, rip sails, get ropes around propellers, anything. You can get in a right mess very quickly.
Let's get on the front!
If you haven't got the experience of the tides and the swell and things like that, you're going to get caught out, no problem at all.
Gonna get you on here.
It can be very easy to caught out at sea. Anyone who thinks they can is probably a bit foolish or a bit naive.
In the Republic of Ireland, lying in the Shannon River Basin, is Loch Derg.
Loch Derg is a beautiful stretch of water. It's the largest and lowest lake on the River Shannon. I would say it's east of Eden because it is absolutely beautiful.
It's somewhere you can go and just forget about everything. It's calming, relaxing. It's just absolutely a gorgeous place to be.
The lake, covering an area of almost 50 square miles, has been a thoroughfare for boats for over 1,000 years.
It was the highway for the Vikings once upon a time, and now it's used mostly for pleasure craft.
Despite these long centuries of water traffic, Loch Derg has only had a lifeboat station since 2004.
Before that, the local people, local fishermen or people at marinas would attend if there was something to be rescued or somebody in trouble.
Before the lifeboat, people would come out in their little boats. Anybody had a boat, you know, if somebody was missing, go and look for them. A fantastic sense of community.
Usually once a year, at least, one person would lose their life on the lake. So it can be fairly unforgiving.
One of just 4 stations that operate on inland bodies of water rather than open sea or estuary, Loch Derg responds to around 20 call-outs a year.
We navigate the narrow neck of darkness to find them in the gut of the night. Fouled, stricken, wrecked. We return them to the sheltered world, and in returning to the sheltered world, we sup at the still, our land legs hollow, but restless to put to sea restored. Cradling a croft of light, an ancient seafarer crosses the bar to take up station beside us. He declares he's glad we're here, glad we fetched them back alive.
One of the longest-serving crew members at Loch Derg is writer and helm Eleanor.
I write poetry and short stories and flash fiction. I write poetry every day. I think that the lake drips through most of my poems, or flows through most of my poems. In the summer, even when there's wind, there's sort of just that constant lapping. It's just such a part of our lives. When you go out on the lifeboat, if people are very frightened, some of the guys think, what are you going to do? You're going to start reciting a poem.
Eleanor lives on the banks of the loch, which is useful for more than just inspiration.
If it's blowing very hard and I see boats out, I do take notice because I think, I wonder if they're okay, or I wonder where they're going. And I have my pager in my pocket, so if it does go off, I get an idea of what the lake is going to be like when you have to launch.
But even with her personal early warning system in place, Eleanor can still get caught out. Late August, early morning, flat, calm conditions.
You sit bolt upright when that pager goes off at 5 in the morning. You look across at the clock and you think, this is serious.
I was fast asleep, so the adrenaline started pumping because, you know, at that hour of the morning, it's not good.
A member of the public has heard cries for help coming from the loch and called the emergency services.
The police said people have heard cries for help coming in from the lake, and people were very distressed by it and they didn't know what to do.
People tend to shout for a reason, usually because they're in trouble or in difficulty.
What was running through my mind was how many people are we going to be able to find the boat? Generally, if someone's crying for help, there's somebody in the water.
The crew here aim to launch within 15 minutes. This morning, they're on the water in 12.
Have you any idea where we're going?
So we didn't know really what we were dealing with or what to anticipate. We were told that a cruiser had been seen leaving the harbour. It is particularly unusual for people to be out on the lake at about 3 or 4 in the morning.
Am I calling the Coast Guard?
Yes, please.
Locker Coast Guard Radio, Locker Coast Guard Radio. This is Locker Lifeboat, and 10-1-6-4.
As well as darkness, fog blankets the lake, reducing visibility even further.
Everything's going through your mind at once. What's your priority? It's foggy out there. What are you going to find?
So it was a calmness, which again was alarming because there had been shouts heard coming from the lake, so you don't know if somebody had been immersed in the water or are they still in it, not shouting at this stage. Yeah, there was an eeriness about the whole thing.
We didn't know what to expect. We had our flashlights. I suppose we were just ready for worst case scenario.
The mood on the lifeboat in dark is pretty serious, and the fog can be very disorientating.
Right? Have we passed Second Island? It's just going up there,
At over 40 kilometres long, Loch Derg is hard enough to search in broad daylight and in clear conditions.
We all know the lake so well, we will recognise landmarks that appear through the fog, but then it rolls down again. It's just like this shroud coming over the lifeboat. Owen had the searchlight out and he was doing a 180 scan from the bow. But when the searchlight is looking through the fog, all you can see is this rolling smoke. Sometimes you'll have pockets that lift and you get a glimpse and then it settles back down again.
We're looking for ripples on the water, a movement, a silhouette, anything at all.
When you're helming in fog at night, you drive with caution and absolutely listening for everything. Something cutting through water and fog, you're listening as well as looking.
The crew continue to look and listen, but there's no sign of anyone or anything in the water.
And then Owen he just caught a glimpse of this almost ghost ship. They seemed to appear through a pocket of fog and then disappeared again. All the lights were out.
It wasn't moving, it was anchored out in the bay. So, yeah, it was an eerie sight at that hour of the morning to see something like that out there.
It was incredibly quiet, unnaturally so.
All boats are required to be lit at night. The sight of this dark, silent vessel only adds to the air of mystery.
Be careful here now, because you don't know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
There's no sign of any movement inside the boat.
Like, had somebody fallen out, had somebody jumped out? Is that why they were crying for help? Like, it was literally like, yeah, something out of a horror movie.
There's somebody in the back. I can see somebody in the back cabin. Yeah. They're not up, but they're not moving.
Well, I asked one of the crewmen if he'd like to go on board, and he said at the moment, because nobody's responding, I'd rather knock at the window and have them come to us.
Hello? I think Eleanor had asked me to go on board, but I think I was more concerned with my own safety at this stage.
Yes, when you're not getting a reply, you're going to fear the worst at that stage.
And then this scared face appeared.
How are we doing? Hi. First thing we need to do is check, make sure there's everybody on board. You just run around and check.
Just make sure you've everybody.
There's 8 on board. Okay.
Okay, there's been calls from the public harbour that somebody's been shouting help, help, help.
One of the guys might have been, I don't know if he shouting help, but he was going to shout. He wasn't shouting looking for help.
In the end, the ghost vessel turns out to be nothing more than a party boat for a group of holidaymakers.
This turned out to be a false alarm, but with good intent.
At least the fog's lifted.
Yeah, and
it's
the
person that made the call did the right thing. If you hear calls for help, or you think are calls for help, at that hour, you think somebody's endangered, the right thing to do is call 999.
It ended well. Like, it's an early morning shout. I got back and I was in time for work. It's a good start to the day.
It was lovely because as the sun was coming up, the fog was lifting. So we went back into the public harbour. And the two guys went to work and I went back to my desk.
On the North Devon coast, tucked in the mouth of an estuary, is the village of Appledore.
It's right off the Bristol Channel, so yeah, we're at the top end of Devon, best part of the world.
Appledore lies at the point where two large rivers, the Tor and the Torridge, flow into the Bristol Channel, creating dangerous and unpredictable conditions.
We've got the two estuaries here that meet the sea. Obviously, you have the swell coming in, creating huge waves, and can be quite treacherous. Further out there, that's a prime spot where we get shouts for people getting cut off by the tide.
The tides at Appledore can rise and fall by 7 metres, bringing an estimated 53 million cubic metres of water in and out of the estuary every 6 hours, which frequently catches people out.
People think it looks great at the moment, looks like you can walk for miles, have a lovely stroll on the beach, and then the tide comes in so quick at a huge rate of knots, and within minutes they can be surrounded. When you've got the currents coming in, can be really dangerous.
The current running through the estuary, it can be 5-6 knots, and you'd have to be Olympic standard swimmer to be able to swim against that.
Appledore's had a lifeboat station since 1855, and the crew here are as close as the community it serves.
Appledore's like quite a unique village. A huge community spirit, everyone gets together, everyone helps each other.
We're a very close-knit station. The station is like a second home sometimes. We're sort of one big family, really.
Yeah, you can have mine. That's how nice I am.
You're very nice, Sam.
I've done it extra tight so you get wet. Lots of banter. You've got to have broad shoulders to join a crew for sure.
Appledore's crews can be called out up to 80 times a year, but the station's busiest time is when the tourists flock to the village in the summer months.
Appledore's a very, very busy place in the summer. We get a lot of holiday makers in the village in the summer.
Nice sunny days. People think nice day for going out on the boat, nice day for a stroll on the beach. The majority of our shouts are on nice sunny days.
A warm Saturday in April. It's the Easter holiday weekend with spring tides, meaning the water today will be at its highest and also its lowest.
We were just sitting down to a family meal at the mother-in-law's and just about to get dished up, and off went the pager.
Every time the pager goes off, the adrenaline kicks in. You go into like a automatic pilot. The pager goes off and I'll literally drop whatever I'm doing and I'll go running down the road.
The Coast Guard has received a 999 call. 2 walkers are stranded on the notorious Zulu Sandbank, named after a shipwreck, and the tide is flooding back in.
First reports was obviously 2 people just stuck on Middlewich Bank, or known as Zulu Bank to the locals.
You know, as soon as someone's cut off by the tide around here, you've got to get there as soon as you can, really.
With the water rushing through, if you try to swim across from one side to the other, you'll end up not making the other side and getting chucked out into the estuary. And then obviously you can be in a whole heap of pain then.
Even though it's a nice sunny day and you might be in shorts and flip-flops, the water's cold, you are open to hypothermia and obviously drowning, unfortunately.
Zulu Bank is situated in the mouth of the estuary, 2 miles west of Appledore, and will be underwater in less than 15 minutes. The Atlantic 85 B-class lifeboat launches in a race against the tide. But the closer they get to the sandbanks, the shallower and more dangerous it becomes, until urgency has to make way for safety.
Once we got to the outer Polly Buoy, then we had to slow down. The tide hadn't come in enough, and there was still not enough water.
It's under a metre.
The main dangers are, if you clip the engine, then you've lost your propulsion, and you're only going to put the people that you're trying to save in danger, and also the crew as well.
It's really frustrating when it is low water, because we want to get there as quick as we can to get to them. But obviously, with it being low water, it does take a lot longer to get out.
Yeah. Finally, the crew get within shouting distance of the casualties.
Start walking that way! Up here! Up here!
I was quite pleased to see that they were stood there, because if they tried to swim, they would have got into difficulty quite quickly. From that sandbank itself to try and swim back to shore is not any... it's a mean feat for sure.
Wait in a minute, I'll be one at a time.
You know the local area, we know how we can get in there. He got in the closest you could, so I jumped over the side of the boat, up to about my knees, and I waded in to bring them back to the boat one by one.
Just breaking cones on it while I give him a hand.
Come on this way, come up a little bit, yeah? Okay. Right?
Yeah, I think they were quite surprised, because obviously it's like, well, how do you know we were here?
Oh, really? Right, go leg.
Nice little romantic stroll along the beach, and before you know it, you've got 4 people on a lifeboat coming to pick you up. It can happen very quickly.
Come and sit yourself on there. No, don't say sorry.
As the casualties are safely recovered, the crew discover they're not the visitors they'd expected.
I've always lived next to the sea, so I really should know better. We've been brought up with getting the tides and stuff kind of chucked in our face, and when you make a silly mistake, all people tend to know you've made a silly mistake because you're in such a small little town.
Yeah, sorry about this, guys.
No, don't apologise.
They were local, very embarrassed. It happens. It's such an easy thing to be caught out by.
You blow up the life jackets?
Yeah.
They're not a lot of good.
Earlier that day, Taryn had set out for a stroll on Westwood Hoe Beach with her boyfriend, Joel.
Joel had been working nights, so we hadn't really seen a lot of each other, so we both had the day off. The weather was absolutely beautiful, so it was like, oh, we'll go and have a bit of lunch, and then we'll just go for a walk. We just were walking, and then we were like, I think the tide's coming in, we better start walking back, and then we were surrounded. There was just water everywhere. The distance to the other side was probably the length of about a swimming pool, easily. And then behind you, it was just the sea, and it was the same on either side. I was terrified. Like, you don't want to admit that you're scared. You're an adult and all this, you shouldn't be. But no, I was terrified.
You both all right?
I was so pleased to see them. I think as soon as I saw them, it was just an instant weight had just gone, and it was like, we're fine now. There's the big orange boat. We're all right now, completely fine.
Though relieved to see the lifeboat, Taryn and her partner did not actually call for it.
They'd been spotted by a member of the public. Once they'd realised what situation we're in, if they'd have called, we'd have been looking at a different situation altogether.
Should know better.
Once the locals that get caught out, don't we? And everybody gets caught out. Trouble is, big tide.
They were really relieved and really embarrassed. And, you know, we try and have a little bit of a laugh and a joke about it, just to try and take the tension out of the situation.
My partner asked, could we have swam it? And the life crew, he said, no, you wouldn't have done it. You would have just got pulled out. The spring tides are so strong at the minute. The lifeboat saved our lives. Like, I just try not to think about how much worse it could have been.
The sea is a great leveller, catching out everyone from novices to locals who should know better, and even those who should know best of all.
Yeah, I've been pulled in quite a few times in my own fishing boat by Humber Lifeboat, because I was 18 mile out one day. I've had my fair share of getting the mick taken out of my call-outs.
I mean, it nearly happened to myself one time. Well, it actually did happen to myself one time. And yeah, it's so embarrassing.
Over my lifetime on the sea, I've been caught out plenty of times. It's just unpredictable.
I've been out in my dinghy fishing and gone from flat calm to sort of a force 5 or 6 within half an hour, really. That's not always well forecast.
Fine, mate. Let go, let go.
There's been a couple of times where I've been on the cusp of calling a lifeboat or the Coast Guard.
There's a bridle for you.
Before we call the lifeboat, it's definitely the last option. You try everything to get your engine going and get back, but at the end of the day, the RNLI is always there to come and get you.
On the east coast of Scotland, perched on a cape overlooking the Firth of Forth, is Anstruther.
Anstruther's a small village. It used to be a big fishing village, but now it's more a yacht marina. There's only a few lobster boats that work here now. It's a really quiet place.
We've got everything from sandy beaches to coastal paths, outlying rocks in the middle of the water. We've got islands out in the middle of the river.
With such a wide variety of land and waterscapes, and all the dangers that come with them, it's not surprising there's been a lifeboat station here since 1865.
Round turn to our fetches.
Round turn.
When you come, over the top, over again.
Right.
Cross that, and up through that hole there.
Right.
That answer, we've got a Mersey class lifeboat. I think she's older than me. I think she's like 26, 27 years old. And we've got a D-class lifeboat that we just got last year.
We go out to animals, we go out to dogs, fishing boats, yachts, speedboats, people falling and hurting themselves on the islands, people falling on the coastal paths. There's not a pattern, it's just anything and everything.
Early April. After a run of overcast, rainy days, the weather is finally clear and dry.
The call came in. The Coast Guard said that somebody's fell on the coastal path. Looks like potentially a leg injury.
Somebody's fell on the coastal path.
The coastal path runs from the Forth Road Bridge to the Tay Bridge south of Dundee, with large sections accessible only by foot or by sea.
The coastal path, you're probably looking about 4 miles, 3 or 4 miles, so quite an area to look at.
As the crew prepare to launch, more information filters through. A paramedic is already on scene and has confirmed that the casualty has not just injured her leg, she has broken it.
When you hear broken leg, you're just wondering, you're hoping it's a closed fracture, not open fracture.
The worst case scenario is definitely it will be death if it's an open fracture, because you're so far away from the nearest town for the nearest ambulance to get to you.
With the shout now considered a medical emergency, the decision is made to launch both lifeboats, with the smaller, faster D-class heading off first.
After the pagers went off, I would say we were on the water within about 3 or 4 minutes.
It's a lot comfier on the big boat, but the big boat won't get in to the rocks.
Casualty that had fallen, they were off the beaten track.
The paramedic already on scene had to walk almost 3/4 of a mile over slippery ground to get to the casualty. An urgent evacuation along the same route is not an option.
I think the paramedic had asked for the lifeboat to assist because there was no easy way to get her to the ambulance.
That's a big boat!
Hi guys, spoken to phone, I think it's possibly a water broken fibular bone. They're saying that there's 2 other adults and 2 children with them, so we keep an eye on.
crew spot the green uniform of the paramedic and move closer to the jagged shoreline, careful not to become casualties themselves.
Right up and watch for rocks, Karen.
It's never easy to come ashore because we don't know what's below us. There could be rocks sticking up a little bit, but just below the water surface where we could easily damage the boat.
Let's look at the rocks, let's look at the best way in here, because knowing that going in we were going to have to come out and in a couple of times. I was first off the boat and the two guys, one stayed with the boat, one came with me.
When we arrived on the scene of the casualty, we could see the casualty was in a lot of pain and the family was in a bit of distress. The kids were young and it wasn't nice for them seeing their mum like that.
The husband was propping the lady up. I just spoke to them, reassured them.
Whereabouts you from? Dunfermline. Dunfermline.
They were from Dunfermline, so I think I mentioned their football team wasn't very good. Light-hearted humour helps massively to put the casualty at ease.
You ever been on a lifeboat before? Well, so you can tell all your friends now, eh?
Very, very quickly I made the decision to get the kids out of the way, down to the ILB, on the ILB and out to the big boat.
Don't have a dog in your life jacket, not the easy. But dogs could swim better than us, eh? Aye.
I think I tried to put the dog on first and it was petrified.
Right, Biscuit. Then you want to hold on to Biscuit, Callum? Yeah.
I can't blame it, a dog on a D class, it's not natural for them. But it was a bit scared.
The kids were very quiet. You could tell there was a little bit of worry in their faces.
As the children and Biscuit, the dog, are transferred to the ALB, the crew of the ILB turn their attention to the most difficult part of the rescue. Moving a casualty with a badly broken leg 100 feet along a slippery path and onto a boat.
Yes, a tense moment because that's when they normally yell the loudest when you move them.
Right, we're going to roll over to your side. Roll on roll. 1, 2, 3, roll.
In a situation like that, there's only so much we can do. I can't repair our leg on the coastal path, so I think it's more about reassurance. It's more about trying to put the casualty at ease, crack a joke.
Fine light person. I'll grab my jacket if that's alright. Oh, I'm not leaving it for your wife to be warm with. Ah, no.
Sharon and her family had come to Fife from their hometown of Dunfermline for a week's holiday.
Right, 1, 2, 3, left.
It was the first day of the holidays that it was actually blue skies, lovely sunny day, so we thought we'd take advantage of the nice weather and take a walk down the coastal path. I think it was about halfway on the walk back. My daughters were walking ahead and my son was just behind with my husband, and I turned around to speak to them, and obviously on a slippy part, and yeah, my leg just felt myself kind of twist my leg and fall over basically, and yeah, I think I sort of almost passed out at that moment, probably with the pain of the break, I think. I'm quite tough, I'm quite good with pain, so I think I was like, no, there's no way I can move my leg at all. It was just, yeah, it was agony, so I thought, yeah, it must be broken.
This might be the easiest bit getting into your neck. There's a bit of long work here. Just the other side. Right, aye.
The paramedic gave me, I think it was morphine, some kind of pain relief. I was surprised when she mentioned the RNLI. I just never really, you think of more if you're on a boat and you get into trouble at sea or something, the RNLI will come, but I'd never thought about the RNLI in terms of, being on the coastal path for a rescue.
This is a bit like the Big Dipper at Blackpool. Whee!
They were great actually, because they were really good fun and definitely made a difference actually.
Alright? Cool. Let us know if you're going to be sick. Because if you're going to be sick, I've got to clean the boat. Just throw you aside like a.
Though Sharon is safely off the coastal path, The crew now have to carefully load her onto an inshore lifeboat, not much longer than the stretcher she's strapped to.
There's not much room on the ILBs with a basket stretcher in it. It really is tight.
Despite the squeeze, the crew of the ILB decide to transport the casualty directly to the ambulance, rather than risk a bumpy and painful sea transfer to the bigger boat.
So we went at a nice slow speed to keep the movement to minimal.
This is your comfort ride him.
I seem to remember them asking what job I did, and they were laughing when I told them I was a dog walker. And I can't remember. They were definitely chatting constantly. They were good fun. They really, they made the time pass quicker, yeah.
5 minutes after carrying Sharon off the coastal path, the crew arrive at St Monans, and an ambulance rushes her to hospital. An X-ray later confirmed she had broken both tibia and fibula bones in her leg.
To break one is bad, to break two is horrendous, so the casualty was in peril. They were in a lot of pain.
George, I say well done to you.
It's one I don't think I'll forget, because it's one of these shouts that it wasn't just a casualty that fell and broke their leg. It was so much more. It had kids, it had a dog, it involved partner agencies, so it wasn't just a run-of-the-mill, oh, somebody's fell and broke their leg.
The paramedics and the RNLI, yeah, they were just great. They were really kind, and also just with my kids and the dog as well. They were just great. Yeah, I would definitely thank them for their help that day.
Back in Ireland, on the banks of Lough Derg, the lifeboat station not only watches over the lake, it occasionally ends up in it.
This is Lough Derg RNLI Lifeboat Station. It's midway down the eastern shore of Lough Derg, and this is our temporary home. We're in cabins at the minute, but that's fine because there's plans afoot for a permanent station. The water levels are very, very high at the moment because we've had incessant rain.
Just 16 years old, Lough Derg is one of the youngest lifeboat stations in the network. Eleanor has been an integral part of it since the beginning.
It's warm and dry in here, so when we're trying to gauge the wind and it's whistling around the cabin and the cabin's shaking, you think, well, it's pretty windy out there.
As one of the original volunteers, Eleanor knows all too well how quickly the calm and peaceful lake can turn and catch people out.
It's not a pond, and if you go out there expecting that you're just going to get a mill pond, you're going to be in for a shock.
Because it is a lake, it's a tranquil place to be, but it can be extremely treacherous.
It's choppy, short waves, and if you did lose somebody overboard, you could lose them very quickly.
A clear February afternoon, bitterly cold. A call comes through from the Coast Guard that a person has fallen into the water at the northern end of the lake.
It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was writing. Even after all of these years, when my pager goes off, I still jump. I mean, I literally jump out of the seat. This is a mayday. This is life and death. This is somebody who's in grave and imminent danger and needs our assistance as fast as we can respond.
Okay, everybody ready to go?
Yeah, clear behind. Once you hear that somebody has been in the water, you know it's urgent.
The crew of 4 launch their Atlantic B-class and head up the lake towards the village of Portumna as fast as they dare.
The lifeboat is also our lifeboat, so we can't damage it in a way. We want to get home as well. So you trim the engines to such a way that you're just skimming at the top of the waves, you're keeping everybody comfortable, and you're maximising the speed.
Windy, raining, very choppy out in the lake, very cold. It was rough.
The location is 25 minutes away, But with winter water temperatures in single figures, hypothermia can become critical in under an hour. So an Irish Coast Guard helicopter has also been scrambled.
As we're going up, the helicopter overtakes us, and there's a sort of, well, that's good, you know, they're going to get there. And as we're going up the lake, we're planning our strategy.
The casualty has now been wet and freezing for almost 40 minutes. As the crew draw closer, news comes over the radio that his two friends had jumped in to pull him out and will also need urgent medical assistance.
So now you've 3 people who've been in the water, who are cold and wet. It's February.
So I could see a small speedboat, and the engine was nearly submerged, and there was 2 people on the bow, a person lying on the seat, and the helicopter winchman.
We've got oxygen.
We need oxygen.
The crew rushed to assist the emergency services already on scene with their onboard medical supplies.
We'll give you a little bit of oxygen, okay? The emergency blanket as well. We can emergency blanket this next here.
We could see that there was actually 3 people on board, and one guy was not looking good at all. He was lying on the side deck of the boat, not very responsive. And the boat had taken on quite a lot of water as well, so. My biggest concern was, apart from hypothermia, water inhalation. He could start to decline very quickly. He was already unresponsive.
The guys were scared. You know, you could see it in their faces. They were scared, and I think they were scared for their friend.
They were cold, very cold, blue lips, you know, but I knew they were kind of semi-okay because they were shivering, you know. This other gentleman lying down was not okay. He wasn't shivering, he wasn't doing anything.
Where they were was in a very awkward position. They were within trees, you know, like the helicopter couldn't winch down, the ambulance crews had no access, there was no road access.
Given the location, the lifeboat is the best means of extracting the casualties to safety.
And you come with us, yeah?
I'll go with you, because if we can't get in, we lift.
The most difficult challenge facing us was getting him out of his own boat, onto our boat, around to a safe harbour, and into the ambulance.
Are you wet as well? Yeah. Okay.
The vessel he was in was after taking on water, so it was quite unstable. So priority was to get him off the deck and onto the stretcher.
1, 2, 3. Right.
Okay, he needs to be on his side, guys.
Yeah, can we lift the stretcher and go back?
The casualty was very ill. He was grunting, which is a sign that he was struggling.
He was very clammy. You could tell that he had been in extreme difficulty.
He was very, very, very white. I was really worried. I was really, really worried that was it.
When they stop shivering, yeah, it's a bad sign because they are hypothermic at that stage. And the body starts to shut down its extremities, so you need to get them into hospital as soon as possible.
You ready, Owen?
Training kicks in. I mean, we train for this. We train twice a week. People say, why are you training so much? It's so that in a scenario like this, it's second nature. We come along and we go boom, boom, boom. We know what to do.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to keep his head up?
The lifeboat crew do what they can to make the casualty comfortable on the short journey to a nearby harbour, where the ambulance is waiting.
You are okay. Can we roll the trolleys?
In that situation, there's very little you can do apart from administer oxygen. So you're just keeping them as stable as you can.
From what I gather, they had engine trouble, and one of the guys leaned out to see if he could fix the engine, and he fell out.
The two companions, they had got into the water and brought him back on board. They were cold and wet and seemed to be oblivious to that fact. Their concern seemed to be for their friend.
Back on shore, the lifeboat is met by the ambulance service. All three men are taken to hospital, where later they make a full recovery from exposure and hypothermia.
It could very easily have gone the wrong way. If he didn't have any friends on board with him, in those conditions, the wind could have taken the boat away from him. He wouldn't have been able to swim after it. You just don't want to think about what could have happened.
One life saved is, you know, that's it. That's somebody's mother, sister, brother. That's a person they cherish. And if we bring somebody back home who might otherwise have perished had we not been there, that's answer enough, I think.
You feel that this person has a chance now to go on and do what they should have been doing in their life. You don't want any praise or anything from it, but just to give them a chance to be, you know, to live. It's amazing.
As well as saving the lives of people who get caught out, the volunteers also save over 2,000 vessels every year. Historic schooner HMS Pickle, whose namesake brought news of Nelson's victory at Trafalgar back to England, was almost lost.
The part that had actually failed was a rubber hose. Total price, probably a tenner. And the failure of that was probably the nearest thing to losing the vessel for the sake of £10. Today's HMS Pickle, she's very much in the vein of the original. She's very seaworthy and very competent. With the correct crew on board, she's capable of amazing things. That experience of living history is quite special. I think that it's very important to retain those traits for the future. I think the lifeboat crew saved the vessel. I do believe in luck, but I also believe you make your own luck. Don't panic when you're in a pickle.